Hey friend, you are listening to the Pro Organizers Coach podcast. I'm your host, Samantha Brown. I'm a professional home organizer, decluttering specialist, and business coach. I created POC to empower you to reach new heights in your business. Through insightful interviews, expert guidance, and actionable strategies, we will equip you with the tools that you need to excel. This podcast is not just about tidying up spaces. It's about building a supportive sisterhood of passionate professional organizers. Whether you're a seasoned pro or you're just starting out, this podcast is for you. So let's do this. Welcome back to the Pro Organizers Coach podcast. On today's episode, I have Kelsey Wayland, and she is east of Seattle. Kelsey was nice enough to let me do one-on-one coaching with her for you all to listen. She has recently done what she is calling a soft launch on her business back in June of this year. And she is quote unquote officially launching in January, but she is actually already working with clients. And so, yeah, that's where she's at. And thank you, Kelsey, for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So tell us real quick how you did your soft launch for those listening.
Well, when I kind of was figuring out what's my next steps, I need to do something because I've been working in in the EMT world for a while, and just I'm a mom of two, so young too, and just thought, okay, I need to kind of stay away from that because it wasn't the right thing for me. And so I was just trying to figure this out, and it's quite funny, but my mother-in-law met a pro organizer at a thrift shop, and she's a person that just can strike up a conversation with anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so she got the card and like brought it to me, and she's like, have you ever thought about doing this? And to be honest, I didn't even know it was a thing. So I was like, really? So I met and had coffee with her, and just in her conversation, I was like, wow, maybe I can do this. And so I joined a couple of Facebook groups like East Side of Seattle, Working Women, and then Moms of Issaquah, the town I live in.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally put a post of like my kids' room just totally trashed. And then it organized and just said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this as a business. What do you guys think? And that went bonkers. And so I just started taking a few jobs here and there. And then as I've gone, I've got a business license and got the insurance and tried to do it officially. But just like I said, I haven't done everything that I've wanted to do. I'm building a website, business card, all the things. So, even just this past weekend, I ran into somebody at a Christmas fair, and they were like, oh, do you have a card? And I was like, oh, no, still in progress. So all those things. But yes, I am mainly working with people, and I do agree that's where you really get the hands-on experience. And right now, I just finished with a job with a person I know, kind of. She's my husband's boss, but all the other people that I've worked with are people that I do not know. And I kind of chosenly did that because I was like, it's hard to work with family and all that. So that's why I kind of call it a soft launch. I'm not charging what local people around here charge as a professional organizer. And so I'm going to do that in January 2023, and just really told them too, was very like, hey, I've organized my home, and that's it. And so, but it's been really fun, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. And I love making everything look good, the chaos of clutter.
Yeah. And so many questions, but real quick, how did you decide your pricing? Because I know that's going to be the first thing that everyone listening is going to be like, that are still starting theirs and that have not launched yet. They're going to want to know, how did you decide your pricing compared to, because you said it's not what others are charging. Did you do like half? Did you say, okay, like 2/3 of it? How did you do that part?
I'm charging probably half, or you could even say a little less than half, because there's some people that really charge a pretty penny around here because the cost of living in Seattle is high. How I did it was, essentially when I realized that I wasn't going to be doing the job that I thought I was going to be doing for a while, it's like what's comparable, and I needed to, mine was like, okay, what's a little bit of the going rate, as well as I need to cover like daycare for my kids, and feel like I'm not totally discounting my price and what I'm doing, but also making people aware that they're going to have to be patient with me, with like the first few jobs, like even the first job that I had, it was a big job, and I don't think I realized what I was getting into. And they're like, you really don't know what you're doing, are you? I don't. No, but I made it look like to this day, I think that's probably one of my proudest jobs. But I've learned so much. And now when I see something similar to that, I know exactly what to do. It just wasn't in the capacity or anything. It was a kitchen pantry, and it was something it was an Indian kitchen pantry too. So they used a ton of spices. Yeah.
I had
And
an
all
Asian one time, and I had already been organizing for like a year and a half at that point. And it like my mind just didn't like comprehend what was going on in that pantry. Yeah. I
Yeah.
totally get
So
what
I
you're
didn't get a
saying.
lot of containers. I got a ton of bins thinking like, oh, I'm gonna anyways, we worked it out. We did it. But like those, it took me longer than I anticipated. And, it was a learning experience, and like, okay, kind of overestimate your time just in case those things. Cause even I did a Zoom call, and this would be where you could give me advice. I did Zoom calls like because we were still kind of in COVID too, as my initial. And I did kind of like, well, if without knowing and what I'm doing and whatnot,
Right.
I think it would be somewhere around this. But what I've learned too is like there's a couple of jobs that I took, and I'm like, wow, okay, Zoom tells you nothing to an extent. I mean, you grasp it to an extent, but until you're actually in that home and like lifting up whatever blanket and
opening
whatever it is
doors.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what happened with that first job, was like I didn't even realize that there was this much stuff. Like I saw a lot of big bins, but all in the big bins was just a bunch of little stuff, right? And
Yep.
so it all needed a place in a home, and it needed to look good. So anyways,
Yeah.
I'm now to the point where I'm like, I will do an initial consult, but I kind of say I don't give the estimates in the Zoom. Like I'll give like a very soft, but like I'm not going to tell you exactly until I'm actually like my initial consult in the house, touching and feeling all the things.
Yeah. So are you doing a phone call, then a Zoom, then an initial consult, or are you doing a Zoom as your phone call?
Zoom as my phone call. I mean, I guess I should say Zoom as opposed to phone call. It's probably not the right terminology. I really try to, but like I just took a job this week, and she didn't show me her space because she was on a laptop. She actually did end up sending me pictures and whatnot, and I'm going to be actually doing that tomorrow, but I didn't do an initial consult. She just wanted to hire me from the Zoom.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'm like, and I
Yeah.
made her aware of that. It's very interesting, and we'll be like, oh, it's a learning experience to like, but in some ways it kind of, I'm going to learn. Yes,
Yep.
of course. Jump in there, coach.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I tell all the girls this that are just starting that have not worked with clients yet is that's why I highly, highly, highly recommend, and I even still to this day do a free consultation because I have to be in that space and I have to be able to, like you said, look around, feel, see what's going on. And it takes a lot of pressure off of the phone call piece to sell yourself. Because right now, it's amazing like what you're doing and there's the momentum and it's great because you're getting practice, you're getting all the things. But it's also because of your price point right now is why the jobs are flowing like they are more than likely, which is amazing. But once you do that launch,
Yeah.
it may kind of, they may back off a little or hopefully not, right?
Yeah,
But
no, I would love to know that, because that is definitely like a nerve-wracking piece for me, as I'm like going to be more in the competitive pricing range of this area, to how to really do carry myself so I do like land the job. And it's not the price point, because I have questioned like, am I excited and like this is great because it's the price point. So I don't know. We'll see.
and right, and we will definitely see, but what I think that like for me, right? So whenever I get a phone call or I'm speaking with someone, the point of that phone call is to get the consultation, which is free. So it takes the pressure off of them. It takes the pressure off of me. You are a very easygoing kind of person like I am, where I'm sure the second you get in their face and in their home, they're going to immediately feel comfortable with you. That's what's going to sell you doing these jobs compared to on a phone call when you're just another person that they've called compared to the other people. And yes, your conversation can help you stick out, but once you're in their face, then it's really, you're going to stand out from them. And if it's free, which everyone does this differently, but in my experience and in my opinion, if it's free, it keeps them from having a reason to say no. And I know if I can get in their home in front of them, I can make the sale.
That's interesting conversation piece because, I've joined a bunch of professional organizer groups. That's where we met each other and, doing the research and whatnot, that has been a thing that's vacillated in my mind. Do I do free or do I not do free? And so I'm currently not doing free. My initial consults are like actually twice as much as what my hourly rate is. And then it can be applied to a package if they so choose. So it's somewhat free.
Right. Which is still absolutely a way to do it, right? To like make sure it's worth your time. But that still
Yeah.
keeps it somewhat free. At least they know it's going towards, and that helps make the sale also. So that's completely fine. I just am not of the mind frame of the people that are like, it's $50 for me to come out and like walk through your home. But then there's no
Yeah.
like added incentive of like, oh, if you book with me, then it
Right.
goes towards your session, or, like
Yeah.
somehow I just don't know that I personally would pay someone to come walk through my home just to tell me what they are then going to charge me if they don't offer for that to go towards the sessions, I
Yeah.
guess, to where it is still kind of free in a way.
I definitely agree with that. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
where I'm like, well, I mean, I've heard more than I did when I previously just put the pricing down at the initial consult of doing the free. And so now I'm like, oh, should I do free? Will I get more people in if they're, oh, I don't have to pay? Because that I can see where it's a gamble, right? Like a person's like, well, what if I really don't like them? Then I am out $60, right? Like,
Yeah. Well, and for me personally, I upped my session prices. So I don't do package pricing, I do session pricing. And then which, whatever, like some people it works for, some people it doesn't. For me, my kind of like spiel that has made it to where 100% of the time I've gotten the job is that I charge per session, and what we get done that day, we get done. And
yeah.
if they want them back to back sessions, we'll do that. If they want to spread them out over weeks, because I understand money is a real
Hmm.
thing, then we can
Yeah.
do that.
I like that.
And I'm in it in the long haul with them, right? Like,
Sure.
a lot of my jobs that I get, we start in one area, but then before, we end up almost doing the whole home because I am a session price. And so instead of in that first initial meeting, them being like, I have to spend $1,000 today, they're like, oh, okay, it's $300 for you to come out and do, 3 hours worth of work. But then I
Hmm.
also haul off the donations and the trash at the end.
Hmm.
But it's $300 for that day. You only expect the $300 at the end of that day's work. And then from there, I can set you up on the next, you know, and a lot of times from at the initial consultation, if if they're like, oh, okay, well, I have multiple rooms I need done. And I advise them, well, I think it's probably going to take about 3 sessions. A lot of times they'll go ahead and set up those 3 sessions. And so I've already got it on my calendar.
I like that.
So it's not like I'm not getting the same amount of sale. It makes I always tell people, and I know this almost sounds kind of bad, but for me, it was the truth when I was starting, right? And it just kind of became part of my like sales is, you may call other professional organizers and they may come out and, you might owe them half up front before they've even started the work, which is the truth. for me, I don't expect payment and except for that day's work of what I have done that day. That is what you owe me for. And there's something about that that makes people immediately trust me of like, oh, okay, this chick's not trying to rip me off, because it is a high priced service that we're doing. But then I also understand that there's a lot of people that are going for those higher end clients that do want to put a bunch of money up front, which is great too. So it's really just more of who are you trying to serve? I was of the mindset when I got started that I just wanted to help people. Like I wanted to be able to pay my flipping bills, quit making $12 an hour, all the, working for someone else and help people. Like I wanted them to feel like when I left, like a weight was lifted off of their shoulders. And so I tried to keep it as like simple as I possibly could and like as true to who I was. And so if it feels good to set up the consultation and have a price on it so it's worth your time in case they don't book a session, that's fine. But I do like the idea of that goes towards your first session if you do book with me,
Yeah.
just so they don't feel like they're out.
Hey friend, do you ever find yourself stuck, unsure of your next steps, but you know you are ready to turn your passion for organization into a thriving business? Well, then look no further. My 8-week one-on-one coaching program is your roadmap to success. I will personally be by your side week by week, offering you the expertise and support that you need to launch your very own organizing business. The benefits that you can expect from my program: 1, you will get personalized guidance that fits your unique business goals and challenges. 2, expert insights. You can tap into my industry experience and knowledge for confident decision making. 3, business strategy. You will learn proven marketing, client acquisition, and growth strategies. 4, accountability. You will stay motivated with regular check-ins and progress assessments. And 5, weekly homework so you know what the next steps are that you need to take to grow your business. While our membership focuses on group coaching, this is your chance for exclusive one-on-one sessions, ensuring personalized attention as you launch your business. Are you ready to invest in your future? For just $697 or 2 easy payments of $397, you will unlock 8 hours of personalized coaching. Imagine stepping out on the other side with your business primed and your first clients in tow. The value speaks for itself. If this isn't an investment that pays off, I don't know what is. Email me at proorganizerscoach@gmail.com or click the link in the show notes. Do not hesitate. Secure your spot now, and let's make your business dreams a reality.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you work? Like, let's say you said 3 sessions, it takes 3 sessions, but then it's like, I mean, I guess it's probably just a little bit flowy, right? But like, okay, you did 2 sessions and you like have an hour more, right? And you're like, do you just crank it out and do an hour more? Or do you schedule a session and a half? Or do you say, you have to schedule a whole nother session to
So
get that?
I've done both where if whatever that day, like you said, kind of flowy, like whatever that day, if I need to go pick up my kids or they need to go
Right.
pick up their kids and like we're on a time crunch, well then, okay, I have to put it on another day. And then it never fails. They find something else for me to do before I come back for another session. And I have it in my contract that, it's $297 for a 3-hour session, but each additional hour is. And so then you put it like, I don't know, I think it's like $80 per additional hour. So it's a little cheaper, but that way if we get towards the end and it's like, okay, we're coming towards the end of the 3 hours, but I know if I could have that 4th hour, it's going to make such a difference. Do you want to go ahead and add that 4th hour? And so we can be completely done today. And then they're just like, yeah, no problem. Yeah, so it's really honestly, this entire business is like, it's insane how much it comes down to setting up your client expectations, like just being upfront, honest, black and white from the very beginning with them. People are so like understanding and like, oh, okay. And as long as you tell them up front. And then, like you said, you've already learned, under promise and then over deliver, right? Like, it's better to say, oh, this might take me 6 hours and get it done in 5 than this is going to take me 4 hours and it actually takes 6.
Yeah.
But I think where your magic is right now is, yes, it may have a little to do with the price point, but I think you did 2 really great things. One is you put it out on Facebook as a question with a photo. So, like, a photo of like, hey, this is what I can do for you, but with a question of like, well, what do you think about this? Should I start this business? So it immediately pulled them in to where they wanted to like give you their opinion, instead of it just being like an ad of like, I'm starting a business. Here's my business. Book me now. It didn't feel like an ad. It was just a legit question. And so I think that really got your momentum going, honestly. And then I think the other thing that you're doing like really well is just being honest with them. Like, you're just saying, look, I am so new. You're going to have to be patient with me, but I'm going to get this figured out for you. And so they immediately are trusting you. They're just like, oh, okay, this chick's like legit telling me that she's new. She's figuring it out. And I think where we go wrong in business sometimes is when we think they want us to be perfect to help them get perfect, when that is not what organizing is in the least. Organizing, in my opinion, and what I have found, is when someone hits a pain point or a stressor where they can no longer do it for themselves, and then they reach out for help. And so they already are in this place of like feeling vulnerable, because it's hard to reach out for help sometimes and admit you can't do it on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's been definitely like exactly that. And then, well, I mean, I could ask you that, like, is there ways people reach out, but some people, like, in some of the consultations that I think they're still trying to grasp the fact that they need help, and like, I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, how do I coach this through very gently, softly, and again, sell yourself to the point where they will grasp that help. Like, for 2 consults that I had, like, back to back. One, she had booked with me, and you could tell just immediately in the consultation, just completely overwhelmed by, I mean, she's got 3 kids. She's busy, working full time, is definitely the person that takes on the mental load. And I mean, that overwhelmedness, you could just see in her face the minute, like, she just kept on talking and like was just all up here. And
total chaos. Yeah.
Yeah. And she showed me, we're starting with her kids' playroom, and just in general too. I was like, do you have a quiet place we can go talk by ourselves? Like, get her in a place that she can just zen out for a second. But yeah, it was like, I think I told her as gently as I can, but at the same time, like, I think there's probably some improvement on my part of like, how do you say, like, you're overwhelmed, like, and that's okay. You have a lot on your plate. I don't know what exactly I said, but I said something in that genre. And then the other person, kind of the same story, and she has not booked with me, but she seemed very like was going to. I'm kind of surprised I haven't heard from her, but it could be the holidays, as well as this is where I'm like, oh,
you're working with disorganized people. They forget that you even exist.
Okay. That's another thing. Cause some people like, yeah, they're like, I've heard from them a month after they first inquired, and then they were like, text me, I'm better with that. And I text them, and then
nothing.
Yeah. And I'm like, what's going on? So yes, that is something I'm learning right now. But the other thing, holidays. But I also, with her, I felt like when I was consulting with her, like, I was like telling her all the things. She had it to an extent, like and I'm like, okay, did I just empower her to be able to do it herself? And then I didn't get myself hired because I maybe said too much. Like, that's the only question in my head of like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah. I think you already knew. You're just, like, you already knew that, right? Like, walking away.
And that's where I felt like, okay, $60, like, I helped her like just with that consultation, telling her that she is like somewhat doing it right. There's just a few other things that you can tweak to make it even that much more perfect. And then, and the same thing too, like, okay, are you like, yeah, they're expecting you to have perfection, like know it the minute you're in it, like see it. And I have definitely like, yeah, when people ask me what exactly you do, it's like, my plan in my head does not formulate until like I've got things categorized and I know how much I'm working with and all that. Like I'm a little bit faster because I now know a little bit what to do beforehand. But I mean, there's times like even today, the job that I was in, I was like, oh, I should have brought smaller bins, put in this little thing, but I didn't.
Yeah. So are you helping people declutter it all? Or are you going straight to the organizing piece? Like, have they already decluttered and then you're organizing what's already there? Or are you going in and like working with them to declutter? Or are you going in and decluttering and then leaving them like a box later to go through as homework? Or kind of how have you set it up?
Yeah. So I'm essentially like the do it all girl. That's kind of how it's worked with the jobs. I haven't had someone really gone like that's been like, I want to do it with you yet.
Which is interesting because like 95% of my clients do it with me. But that's what I tell them in the consultation, right? It's all about
Yeah.
expectations. They have not ever worked with an organizer. So that's why I tell people just know how you want to set your business up. You can do it on your own. You can do it with the client, however you want to do it.
Yeah.
And that's what you're going to get because that's how you're setting the expectation, right? It's like you're telling them, hey, I can come in for you. And, and for me personally, I love those sessions when you can just throw your earbuds in and just like boom, boom, boom and hit it all and like do whatever needs to be done. And then I also have like these times that, you meet someone and they're so overwhelmed and you look around in their home during the consultation and it has to be decluttered. Like the only way to make it better, like bins and baskets and moving stuff isn't going to help a dang thing because the amount of stuff in that space is
Yeah.
overwhelming. That is when
Yeah.
you have to be like, okay, we need a decluttering session is what we need. And like the lady I had today, I set her in a chair and I just started putting stuff in front of her. I held two big black, because I always bring the big like contractor bags with me. I have one as trash and one as donation. And then I ask her, keep or release, keep or release. That's all the client needs to decide. If they decide to release, I will choose if it's donation or trash. But I've learned over time, it confuses people if there's three options, right? Like if it's keep, donate, or trash, they end up spending all this time thinking like, well, is it donation or should it go to trash? And I'm like, no, 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 no. That's my like, no, keep or release. Keep or you just tell me keep or release. I'll make that choice. And that kind of speeds the process up a little bit. And so you will meet those clients though that they also need talking room. Like you become half psychologist, half yeah, half
Yeah.
organizer. And so, you know, that's those clients too that like today specifically, the session I had, we were supposed to just work on the office and we got the office done in like an hour and 15 minutes because I mean, she was just, and that's the other thing is during the consultation, I always tell my clients when they say, how long will this take? I always say, I don't know. It is based on your decisions and how
Mhm.
quickly you can make
Mhm.
decisions of what stays and what goes. And so
Right.
if you're working with a client, that's something to kind of put it back on them on how long it's going to take. Yeah. But like you said, like you're learning as you go. I'm just wondering, like, for instance, the kids' room or like, have you gone into an area yet that had too much stuff for the space and then tried to organize that and it went not great? Or have you pretty much been able?
Well, I've been doing this home for quite some time that kind of had that same situation. So it took me a while because it was a little bit of like, okay, that didn't work. Okay, readjust, da da da. And with some of those clients that have a lot of stuff, what my take and how I've been, because they have been like, I'm busy, I'm working, da
Mhm.
da da, is I mean, what I try to do is make that process just like you. It sounds like this was what I got from what you said, which was nice, was like, okay, there's probably some value, because I could even see it in my own life. If someone was just allowing me to sit back and not have to do the physical work of like picking up whatever it is, yeah, you could probably make that decision. Whereas, no, you pick it up, and then by the time you're done with all the physical work too, you're kind of exhausted, right? You're like, okay,
Yep.
need a break. Whereas if you're just sitting there making the mental part work, so that's a good kind of like point to make, where when you are in the decluttering part. But what I have done is just basically sorted all their stuff that they don't have any order to. So it's like, okay, you have 50 shirts. Now go through it really quick and tell me what you don't want anymore. So it kind of makes that job easier in that regards, because they're not having to do the sort part.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, some of the people have not given away as much as I would prefer for their space. So it's been harder. But again, that's where you just have to go like, okay. And then you set up realistic expectations, right? Like, I'm going to do my best. But I mean, even at one point with this client, she had so much clothes. They're all hanging, and she was getting ready to go on a trip. And my guess is, because I wasn't there, like she probably pulled it too much and whatnot, and the weight of all the clothes that were already hanging there, she didn't have it like on like screwed in like closet rods.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up doing that for her. But she said, like, I had it all looking nice, and then she sent me this message like that night was like, all my on the floor again. And I was like, that sucks.
Yeah.
But I fixed it for her, and it was a fairly easy fix. They were just like, I mean, it looked like a mess, but again, it was an organized mess. So once I got the rods like but yes, if we hadn't put proper rods in, she'd be dealing with that problem every 2 seconds because the weight of all her clothes.
Yeah. And one thing that I try to tell a lot of clients, right? Because some people just have a stuff problem. Like, there's just too much stuff. Like, it just is. For the amount of space that they have, it is way too much stuff. That's when coming in, if they don't seem like they're not that they're not willing to declutter, but maybe they don't know how, or it's just easier in their mind to be like, oh, I'm just going to keep it all, right? Or like they think they need to keep it all, or whatever that thing is. There's something about setting them down and literally holding one shirt at a time. Tell me about this one. Why are we keeping this one? Tell me about this one. Why are we keeping this one?
It would be interesting. Like, it kind of makes me tempted to want to be like, no, I'm working with you to see how that is, because that is one thing that I love about the whole component too, is the whole psychological, like, and just getting like the real story as to why stuff is being, they're holding on to whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, how many hours are you doing per session right now?
Well, it depends on the location, right? But 4 to sometimes upwards to 6 if I have a good day and don't have a lot of other things going on. But I would say probably 4 to 5 is like the average.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one thing I loved about the way I set up my business, and again, this is completely up to you. Just remember, when you set it up, however you set it up is what you're going to get back out of it, right?
Yeah.
However you set this thing up. And so, I know of some women that decide, okay, I want to work 3 full days per week. And so I'll do like 3 5 to 6 hour sessions, like, per week. And then other people, like for me, I would rather do a 3-hour shift and be home by 1 p.m. every day and have the rest of my day, And so I literally drop my kid off at school. I'm at a session by 9:30. I'm done by 12:30. I haul the trash and the donations off. I'm home by 1:30, 2 at the latest, and have the whole rest of the evening.
Yeah.
And so, it really is just how you want to set it up. And so just be mindful of that as you're launching, quote unquote, right?
Yeah. And I think it might change. Right now, I feel like it's a fairly good balance with my kids being young. I
Yeah.
don't really want them to be in daycare all day long. And I like kind of, if they're in daycare, that's kind of where they're at. And so it works right now, but I definitely like, even just like I told you right now, I'm either like building my website or doing the business things or whatever at the end of the day or the beginning of the day, which is somewhat fine, but it feels like a push at times. So, there's been times where I need to shorten it and make that a part of my like regular day, or just for me and self health, like wellness, exercising, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm still definitely figuring it out.
Well, and here's like two things, right? One is you can always change it. If like you are
Right.
doing something and you're like, okay, this is not working, let's try this other option, or let me see what I can tweak. The second thing is especially when you're first starting, there's so much that has to be done compared to once you get in that rhythm and once you have like
Right.
your contract and your website and your, all the things, you no longer have to do those things. You just have to do a little maybe marketing or, but it's
Yeah.
nothing compared to what it is in the beginning. And so knowing that right now you may even have to set aside a day that they're in daycare per week or once every
Hmm.
other week or something to get these things done just so you can focus, because a couple of hours of focused time doing whatever that thing is compared to trying to push it at 10 p.m. at night or 5 a.m. in the morning when
Yeah.
you're on no sleep and the kids are,
Yeah.
it really is sometimes better just to like set aside a day and just knock it out.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I definitely agree. And actually Tuesdays are somewhat of that day that if it works out, but I want it like today, I probably would have done that. But because of the snow last week, I felt like, okay, I've got to get back to this person that thought I was going to be there all last week that
Oh,
couldn't
yeah.
go to, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's always
So
something, always. Like, and that's why I even got to where, like, building this podcast and the membership and everything, I had to decide, okay, Wednesdays are like my POC days, like for Pro Organizers Coach. I literally had to put it in my
mhm,
calendar because
mhm.
until I did, something was coming up every single Wednesday where I was
Yeah.
like, I'm
Yeah.
trying to work on my business here.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely agree. That's where you feel a little disorganized.
Right? Yeah.
The planning in regards to that with a young family and just family in general, you kind of like always just in this. And I've always told myself like, I gotta sit down and just like put it in and like not let it be flexible. But that's half what I love about this job too, is it's somewhat flexible. I can be my own boss. So yeah, it's interesting how it
Yeah.
all works out. But yeah, I would love to know a little bit more about your coaching stuff and
Yeah. So, what I'm building is I've been doing for professional organizers to meet on Zoom
mhm.
and work on their business for an hour together of like talking, kind of like exactly what we're doing
Yeah,
right now, of
right.
just, the back and forthness of,
Yeah.
well, have you found that works? And what have you found that works? And, and it's a little bit of me coaching, like the more getting started groups of like the very beginners that have never even worked with a client. It's more of me coaching them group that I've started that are people that have already started working with clients. It's a collaborative thing. Like, I don't even know. I don't, I'm in the middle of it just as much as everyone else is. And so it's super interesting. And I think that's what we're kind of missing in the professional organizing industry is like, there's the Facebook groups where you can type it out. And because not only for just the people learning, like, that's great, right? Like when you're just getting started, exactly how to do these certain things. But also, what about like the wins? Like
Yeah.
every time I come home and I'm excited about something that happened with like a client or
Yeah.
something, like you were saying, the psychology of stuff. And I go to tell my husband and he's like, meh, like I get a blank stare or something. Or he's like, watch out, honey. Football's on the TV. Or I go to tell my teenagers and they're like, good job, mom. And I'm like, who do I tell? Like, I want to talk
Yeah.
about this stuff,
Yeah.
like it's fun.
Yeah.
And I think that, the few times that I've thought about quitting, which never ever happened, and like I didn't really think about quitting, but those times that I got so close to being like so frustrated and annoyed is because I was so lonely.
Mhm.
Because we go into our clients' homes and we take on all of their crap.
Mhm.
And then we come home and we have to deal with all of that crap, you know?
Mhm.
And it's like,
For
where
sure.
do we get to like talk it
Yeah.
out and, like have
I
support
love
and
it. And I definitely agree that that would help me like survive in this business too. And yeah, it totally makes it a ton of sense. Like I love this and the fact that I am a bit more introverted and I do love, yeah, just like you said, putting my like headphones on and just like doing my thing and having my chill time. That it really is kind of my zen time to just one be fixing a problem, which I love doing, as well as, you know, I don't do like I have young kids right now. So when
Mhm.
I come home, it's like
Yep.
so
Mom. Yeah.
yeah. Anyways, but I do know that just like I said, even that original conversation that I had way back before I even started it, as well as I just met another professional organizer around here and had a little like conversation with her. And then obviously the Facebook groups and all that, like it has been like, oh, okay, like this is nice, like to be able to go like, oh, what did you do? Or yeah,
Yeah.
hearing that how you feel about free consultations and all that stuff. Like it is like there's a sense of calm that's like, okay, yeah, I can feel uneasy about this, or
Mhm.
I can feel confident, or whatever it is that you're
Yeah.
happen to be dealing with.
Instead of sitting there thinking, am I crazy?
Yeah. I love real clients that give you great feedback and realize the value of your work and whatnot, because that's another hard thing that I'm sure that you've dealt with too, that I've had a few clients that like, you just don't get the accolades that you like are expecting with like, whoa, do you realize like how much was done? But
Mhm.
that could be a different perspective in the fact that like I am alone, I'm not with them too. So I'm not getting that constant feedback as we're going through the process. Like I kind of like I've had to kind of temper myself down of like, okay, you might want great expectations, but don't expect great expectations of the like they don't realize what you've been doing for the past however many hours. They know they feel better, right?
Yeah.
So I have a Google form that basically is like gives me the information. So when I do have consultation or the call, like I can kind of like carry the conversation, right? So like
Mhm.
and it does have the question of like, do you want me to do it on your own? Do you want to do it with me? So, and like I said, everyone has been like, you do it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because that tab is there that they're like, sweet, yeah, you do it.
Right. That's exactly why. Because they're like, if I'm paying you, you're doing this crap. I ain't doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but it is a good selling point though when I am actually talking to them, right? So it's like that initial declutter will go 10 times faster if you're there. And some people, like even the person I'll work with tomorrow, she is planning on being there for the like, get my foot in the door, like tell me kind of like what
Yeah.
can stay and what can't, and then I'll do my best. And like I said, make that bin that I'm like, I think this is what and this is what I put together. But if you want to go through it quickly, right? Like,
Yeah. And a lot of times that's a good kind of medium, right? Is like telling them like, hey, if there's a way that especially at first you can at least kind of walk me through and then kind of be around if I have any questions. Or I've even told them before, if you can just like sit down with me and show me what you want to keep versus what needs to go real quickly.
right,
And then you
right,
can go do whatever and I can
right.
totally take it from there.
I've had one client where just that, like, I think she's really busy. So she
Mhm.
said she would be available and she has not been. And so that's just been an experience for me. And I'm trying to, and she's the whole home organization that I did for a while there. So have gotten a lot of experience out of her home. But in general, that has been definitely something that I think I'll like be very much more because of the experience I had with her of like, I need you around, or I need to know that you are going to be like, when will you be available by text or whatever? Like, or is it like, I'm in a meeting from 9 to noon and don't expect any answer from me until that time. So then I can just know,
Yeah.
keep working as opposed to like having these like random texts or like, oh yeah, I'll talk whenever, like type of, and it just never happens. And so I just feel a little bit lost, or like you don't know where your brain is. Like my brain doesn't feel organized and like, okay, I will keep going because I'm working, but at the same time, like my
Yes.
productivity is down because I don't know what this is and
Yes.
what he, whatever it is, particularly wants in this thing. I mean, I just do my best, and it's kind of like, and maybe they're going to have to revamp the entire thing, but I have to just, again, it's like, okay, if you're not going to prove me with the conversation, I can't read your mind. Right. So,
Yep. Yeah. And you'll literally
anyways.
get to that point where, like, not that you say it that bluntly, but that you say that during consultations where you're like, listen, this can either be a collaborative process or I can do it for you. But you have to be around for me to be able to interact with. If you are not, I can keep going, but I can't promise you it's going to be what you're wanting it to be.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or that it's going to function properly for you and your family.
Right.
If I don't have your input while I'm doing
Right.
this thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're completely on the right track. Like it's
Yeah.
not just you. Like every one of us has had that client that where we're standing there and we're like, well, what am I supposed to do now? Like, I don't even where you just your brain fogs out because you don't know what they're wanting or what they're needing for that exact thing in that moment. Yeah, you're completely on the right track.
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly, your gut is like exactly where it should be. With the whole launch thing, exactly what you said. We'll see. Like, try it, see what works. If it doesn't work, okay, great, fine, tweak it. And then see if that works. And if that doesn't work, well, tweak it again. Like, you'll find, your flow and your rhythm and what works for you and what doesn't. Because it only takes one time of it not working before we're like, oh, got to switch that up.
Right.
Thank you for being on the podcast. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Pro Organizers Coach podcast. If you've gotten any value from today's episode, be sure to subscribe to our podcast and leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps us grow, and it warms my heart to hear from you. And make sure to stay connected with us on socials at Pro Organizers Coach. Then go to proorganizerscoach.com to find all the ways that we can help you succeed in your business. You have the power to make a difference in people's lives through decluttering and organization. Keep honing your skills, embracing those challenges, and fostering connections within our organizing community. Progress will come with every step, so keep pushing forward and you will achieve your dreams. Girl, you've got this.